So let's talk about a new masterpiece that's been revealed to us. As of this recording, we've learned a lot more information about this masterpiece toy. I want to talk about Masterpiece 39 Sunstreaker, which we kind of knew that sooner or later they were going to do this character, but we didn't know that it was the next one in the cards. Last time we had any kind of indication at that point of a Masterpiece toy, we were teased of a Masterpiece Dinobot from the Beast
Mm-hmm.
Wars side of things.
Yep, yep.
But then Figure King magazine had some scans and revealed to us what is going to be the next Masterpiece, MP-39. So before I get into the article with all the reveals and stuff and a lot of interesting information that was mentioned by the designers in it, I just wanted to just get your opinion on it first, Wendell. So take it away.
Oh, well, it looks really, really cool. I guess I like looking at it, and then I immediately was looking at how Bad Cube did their thing.
Bad Cube being the third party
Yeah, the third party
Masterpiece
one,
one. Yeah.
the Sun Scourge, basically. And I think the differences between the two is more so they went a little bit different on the head. Like like his little fins on the side
Hmm.
are a little bit smaller from what I'm seeing. They're not as pronounced and out there. Um, and then I feel like the arms are probably like similar to the Lambor, basically,
Yeah.
if anything. Like it's not it's not too far from Lambor, but I mean like just reverse how the feet are and everything like that. So I was surprised. Like as soon as people started like putting this up, and then it started spreading across my Facebook feed. But he looks really good though.
Well, one thing that I feel like, and it's the same thing when we first learned of the new Masterpiece Megatron, was that
Hmm.
there seems to be a strong emphasis on doing some really dynamic poses, which is something that, I mean, when it came to G1 toys in general, articulation was non-existent. Let
Yeah.
alone doing dynamic poses. When we got to the classics line, the limited articulation that we got, like we still had articulation with the deluxe scale of classics toys, but there was only so much that you could do with
Hmm.
that price point and stuff. Where I mean, like again, these revealed photos. So some really like anytime you could have like a character two-handedly holding a gun,
Yeah.
so
Exactly.
that shows that there's some really good shoulder joint stuff going on there, and that's a Fluoro Deary, animation cell kind of shot going on there. Like that's something that like you would see in the old season one G1 episodes and go like, man, I wish my toy could do that pose, which would be non-existent. But again, when that Megatron came out, the version 2.0, and it was
Hmm.
striking all these poses that the '86 movie was known for, um, it showed that there's been some engineering leaps since
Yeah,
that first set of cars, if anything.
I think that's going to be your selling point for sure. Like what's going to set us apart from what we've done before. Definitely, just be the playability, the posability of it. I mean, I think that's one of the things we always look forward to for masterpiece toys. Not just to have something bigger than before, but more accurate in posability, in more looking like the actual animation kind of thing.
Well, that's I've always said this many times that I feel, and that's always been sometimes the conflict with a lot of fans with masterpieces. I've always felt that masterpiece should exist to be the most show accurate toy
Hmm.
possible. Because I mean, if you wanted toy accurate, then well, don't you just have the original toy that was failing to be show accurate to begin with? That was like, I mean, there was so much criticism with G1 Shockwave, the masterpiece, going like, oh, they didn't like the purple that was used, and I was like, well, they were trying to do the G1, cartoon purple. They weren't trying to do,
Hmm.
the dark original toy, and
One Go on. Sorry.
Oh, and I was just going to say, like, and I mean that kind of problem seemed to persist as you go forward with a lot of the other characters. There was complaints, oh, why didn't Optimus Primal come with his mutant face mask? Excuse me, which is like, again, that wasn't in the show. Like,
It wasn't in the show. You don't need it.
and I mean, we're getting that later with a newer Optimus Primal release. But the point being is, like, the whole point to me of the Masterpiece line, with the exception of obviously all the special repaints and stuff, is to be the most show accurate thing possible. And we're gonna actually get into even the kind of the questionableness of show accuracy when we're getting, another toy released also to kind of complement this one. But we'll get into that afterwards. But it's just anything else you want to say about it before I really dive into the article here?
One thing I wanted to say was one of the details I really really like is the pop up headlights
Yes,
in real car mode as they have here in the article and the photo shoot. I really really dig that.
that's something I really wish the original Lambor Sideswipe had, because
Hmm.
that was a very key thing with that old Countach, was the pop up headlights. And so that's something that's really cool. And it's not only that, the pop up headlights, but also an opening engine bay.
Yeah.
So, well, in this case, it's not the engine bay.
Well,
It's more
it's
just
the
what we would call
it's
the
the
engine bay,
trunk, the
but
front trunk,
the front trunk
if that's the term.
for a Lamborghini, or a boot, as they would be called in over there. But it's just it's amazing. It's I really did. It really shows the next evolution of those car characters, because we kind of like achieved perfection with Lambor. We got, like, I would like to call 9 out of 10 perfect with the Datsuns. I mean, I
Hmm.
love them. I still think they're amazing, but I still feel that they weren't 100% perfect. And then we got back to perfect again with Wheeljack, where all those car guys thus far have been really stellar. But because they were also smaller, they were in a smaller price point, and I feel that because they were on a smaller price point, with the exception of Lambor and Wheeljack, maybe they would be lacking in some areas that could have, had more. And I feel like they just kind of realized that and went, all right, you know what, Sunstreaker, we're going to probably keep him to scale with the other guys, but this time around, we're going to really put some money behind him.
Mm.
We're going to, like, make sure that you could get, like, his, here's the following things that he has that, these other guys didn't. The other, the Datsuns and the Lancia, from Wheeljack, and
Hmm.
number one, he comes with multiple faces.
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't the case with any of the cars up to this point. He comes with a mask, which is from the episode Hollywood Hoist from season two, where he was just like, he was wearing like an alien mask. He comes with, again, his weapons. He comes with a whole bunch of just all that key stuff that I really like about car uh, masterpiece toys, where, again, the opening trunk, the opening doors, the pop-up headlights, stuff that was, again, absent, unfortunately, from a majority of the car stuff, with the exception of, I believe, Trax. Trax had his opening engine bay, which was
Hmm.
nice. But then again, Trax had a whole bunch of other problems, unfortunately, when it comes to robot mode. But that's a whole other story. But one thing that I found very fascinating was it, and this is something that I wanted to get into, was he comes with Chip Chase.
Mm.
And normally this would just be a cool thing, and we would just move along, even though Chip Chase didn't really have too much of a connection to Sunstreaker. I think he's more of a, and as much as it would be, not needed, but he's more associated with riding with Bumblebee and stuff.
Right.
But what I found fascinating about it is because we mentioned before Bad Cube, and how Bad Cube came out, man, it feels like, what was it, like a year ago, and he came with Chip Chase, you know, and then all this time later, and now we finally get the official Masterpiece release, and it comes with Chip Chase. It's again, Sunstreaker isn't one of those characters that's strongly associated with that character to the point that it's a given. You know what I mean?
Right.
Oh well, he has to come with Chip Chase. Like they're, So it really makes me wonder what goes on behind the scenes with third party and what's being planned and designed.
Mm.
Um, the fact that the third party toy comes out, comes with the exact same accessory as the official one does later.
Hmm.
It makes me really think, and it also makes me think, now with all the jazzes that we've been seeing and stuff, that
Yeah,
probably
exactly.
gives you a really good indication of probably what's to come, so to speak. So it's it's interesting. I mean, there's not much more I could say about that, but it's like it really says a lot about what probably could give you an idea of what's to come. Although what is to come might be contradicting what I'm saying, because there was with this Figure King reveal, there was an article pretty much breaking down their choices and why they went with this character and little things here and there by one of the designers, which they, oddly enough, they failed to mention his name. Um, I
Oh,
want
really?
I want to feel that it's probably Hasui, who was the one who was responsible for Lambor and stuff, but I don't know why the translation here failed to mention his name. But essentially, they talked about why they went with Lambor this time around, and they mentioned how when they first started doing this car series, like this lower price point masterpiece car series, they didn't go with Lambor. They went with his counterpart. Excuse me, they didn't go with Sunstreaker. They went with his counterpart Lambor. That was the very first one,
Hmm.
Sideswipe. But they felt that it would have been more appropriate if they went with Sunstreaker, because he was actually the very first car robot Daiclon car ever designed.
Ah.
Like when we met not Koji Ono, yeah, it was Koji Ono, excuse me. When we met, remember the guy who you got
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for
to
sure.
sign your jazz?
Yep.
He designed Lambor. Like that
Mm.
was the very first transforming, mold of that would be Transformers later from Daicon. Koji Ono, like, he designed that first. So they felt like, I think it's about time that we do the very first of the very first and tackle that design. And I mean, you see, like you mentioned before, you see a lot of similarities uh, to that with the Sideswipe in terms of engineering and the forearms and stuff like that. Um, then they go on to mention like how the real life car that Sunstreaker was designed from has different details. So they obviously, again, it's that conflict of, do you go with something that's more real life accurate or toy accurate, or do you go with show accuracy? And so they obviously said we're aiming more to match the animation model. And they mentioned something that was really interesting, which I didn't
Hmm.
notice until I read it, and then I looked back, and it was something that all the third party guys kind of failed to do. Was they actually have a fake chest on this toy, where the chest piece that makes the car bonnet is actually a fake one compared to what actually is the real car bonnet on the car.
Yeah, like you mean
The
the
hood.
roof of the car,
Excuse me, the
basically,
wood.
right?
Yeah, the hood of the car. Excuse me.
The roof.
Yeah, the roof or whatever you want to call it.
Because what I'm noticing in the toy and the actual thing is that his Autobot logo is on the hood of the car, and then it shows up again on his chest. But when you look at the roof of the car, there's a black kind of like little streak on it,
Hmm.
and then when you look at his chest, like that streak kind of stops maybe one third of the way down, or yeah, one third of the way down, and then the Autobot logo is there, and his chest also looks a little bit smaller.
And
Like,
that's something that is amazing because
mhm. Why
like
not? I mean, we have the technology; we could do it.
well,
Why not?
and I find it works better to match that animation model. Again, Fluro Deary, when he was making these animation models in 83 and into 84 for the 84 series, I'm pretty sure he was looking at the G1 toys and, just going, well, I want to make them look better. But there was no
Yeah,
intention of going like,
obviously.
oh, they're going to make toys later to make this more accurate. Hell, some of them that he's done are kind of impossible, if anything.
But
Uh,
by gum, we've done it anyway.
yeah, but again, they figured out ways to move things around and make it look really good and accurate. And again, that dummy chest, as they refer to in the article here, they say that they hate to have to do something like that, but they feel that by doing this, they're able to do something that looks very much so like the animation model and not have to sacrifice the alt mode. And it works very well. It works very well, and that was something that the third party guys failed to do. Was they kind of stuck with the chest being the actual carb on it, and it made it look a
Yeah.
lot larger. And that was actually a weakness that kind of existed with, say, some of the previous Masterpiece toys like Hot Rod, where by keeping that actual carb on it and nothing compressing, kind of made it kind of wide. So,
Because I'm looking at a image of Bad Cube, Sunscourge right now, and his chest looks super wide compared to the MP Sunstreaker, where he looks more tight on the top. Like not tight, but like he looks more slim,
mhm.
but like still like athletic, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, well, and again, Fliro Deary's designs were a lot more compact. Like
Hmm.
they took these wide, blocky toys and made them more slimmer, and to the point that kibble was non-existent on a lot of them. You go back and you look at the original G1 Jazz, even he doesn't have his car doors. Like a lot of stuff was absent. For the sake of just complete, more of a streamlined, simple kind of design, maybe for the cell animators to replicate over and over. Who knows what the choices and why he made those choices? But ultimately, in the end, um,
But I would say for like Jazz, it's because um, Prowl already has the wings, so it would kind of be redundant if you had like Prowl and Jazz.
yeah, I guess so. They didn't
You
want to
know, like
repeat the look.
it makes either one of them stand out a little bit
Well,
more.
and that was
That's
something
it.
that Fluro did too. Like he was very notorious for even though two toys looked exactly the same, like Prowl and Blue Streak, he made sure the animation models looked different.
Yeah.
Even if it was a slight tweak here or there, make the face look a little different. I mean, that was the same case with who was I going to say? With same thing with Blue Streak and Prowl to oh my God, Smokescreen. Same
Oh,
thing
okay, okay.
where they still made an effort to kind of separate them. I also wanted to bring up because, like he mentioned here, that now that they've invented that kind of technology and they kind of plan to kind of use it more if it works in their favor. One of the questions that then they asked was, what are some of the future masterpieces that they'd like to do? And then they say that they, due to the demographic, they kind of see themselves in the future going one Beast Wars, one G1 back and forth, which I love the idea of that because that
Hmm.
means that we'll see a lot more Beast Wars. But they said the next one that they would personally like to tackle, this is not like promising anything, but they'd really like to do the 4x4 design of Hoist and Trailbreaker.
No, wait, what?
Yeah.
But didn't aren't we seeing a bunch of stuff from third parties doing those things
Well,
already?
there you go. So maybe there
Hmm.
you go. So that's
Someone's
why.
got loose lips, it seems
Well, and
like.
then they said afterwards they'd also like to really tackle the mini bots, but I mean, I think
Yeah.
that I always felt like I felt that Bumblebee wasn't very successful, and that kind of worried me because I mean, if Bumblebee isn't
Hmm.
successful, like it's only downhill from there. I mean, you're not holding out for that hardcore cliff jumper fan or something, or Braun, and I love Braun. Braun's kind of one of my personal favorites. Um, but I mean, realistically, if Bumblebee doesn't do well, it's just ugh, okay.
Oh man, if they do a Brawn, I'm gonna be scared because they're gonna do like, if they're doing replaceable faces and stuff, they're gonna do one with like, what was it, dark eyes and like flames coming out of his mouth as if he's dying.
Oh, I don't know.
That would be like the extra face or
I
something.
don't either,
Something
or
really
the blown
morbid.
off shoulder from like the shuttle or something. But yeah, so like either way, that's the way that I see it. Like, I mean, it's going to be interesting. But what was a recent update to this was now fast forward to now today's recording. We've gotten some new interesting information. First, we learned that there was going to be a Masterpiece 12 Plus Sideswipe, meaning that because of Sunstreaker coming out, they were going to re-release Sideswipe as a companion piece, if anything, because hey, have the brothers together, and they called it an enhanced reissue, and we didn't know much about it up to that point, except it being a plus. A lot of us going, well, wasn't the original toy already show accurate perfect? Apparently, we were wrong because then at the Tokyo, where is it? I have it all here. The images, the Tokyo Toy Show, uh, as of today, started showing off some more stuff. We got to see a updated version of the Sunstreaker first of all, which now originally in the Figure King scans he had a yellow spoiler, which was
Hmm.
actually not show accurate. Now he has a silver spoiler or a gray spoiler. So now the update to the toy, he actually has the more proper spoiler. That's correct. But what we also got to see was next to him was the new Sideswipe Plus version. And here's what I could tell looking at mine and the different versions and the one that's shown in this display here for the MP-12 Plus Lambor Sideswipe. The only differences I could see, and mind you, these photos could be totally wrong, is now his toes are the more show accurate white instead of being gray.
Mm.
Because yes, the original animation model had white toes instead of gray. His gun is now white instead of like gunmetal, which again in the show it was like white. And everything else looks unchanged. To my knowledge, it really looks like nothing else was changed here, right down to the Autobot logo and everything. I could be missing something. Someone post if I'm incorrect, but that's from what I could tell from these photos. Oh, and it looks, but again, I don't know if it's the flash of the photo, but it looks like the tires are gray instead of black. But that one really would be kind of silly. I really think that that's maybe just the photo.
It could be the lighting or
Yeah, or
something
the
like that.
lighting. I don't know. And then the last one is he comes with all the different PAL driver parts that came originally with the different releases of that mold. So like, the Amazon Japan exclusive came with 2 PAL driver pieces. The Tiger Tracks repaint from eHobby came with the like the wedge PAL drivers. So it comes with all the different PAL driver sets also, it looks like, with this. But it doesn't look like there's otherwise anything else changed. It's very minor tweaks here and there to make it now 100% perfect show accurate. I know they did something similar with Red Alert not too long ago, where they released Red Alert and then they did an anime version Red Alert, as they called it, which was slightly more accurate. Whatever. I mean, I'm not too crazy about stuff like that. I always feel they should have got it right the first time, but but either way, I mean, hey, whatever. I guess I could understand their logic is because, hey, you know, this was, Lambor was the first one. He came out a couple of years ago. Now Sunstreaker is coming out. Might as well do a re-release so the two come out together and you could get the brothers together. It's kind of like, I guess,
Like I don't know if there's like a holdout for Lambor. You know what I mean?
well, he
Like
is. It was a really, really good masterpiece toy, so I could still.
yeah,
I
but
could.
it's not show accurate,
Well,
man. You know
now it
what I mean? I
is.
want it show to a T, to a foot
And I think, and
accurate.
again, I could understand them. Like I said, I could understand them re-releasing it because it's going to have a companion piece. It's the same way I was actually talking with one of the friends of the podcast here, Larry, um, and he just recently is going to be getting Dirge from the Seeker Jets in the mail. And I told him,
Mm.
like, man, it's practically taken us 15 years to get all the Seeker Jets, which is true. It literally took 15 years to get your perfect Seeker Jet set, if you don't count like a purple repaint down the line or something.
Right.
But it's where in this case it's kind of like, they're kind of going, now we're getting Dirge, maybe we should re-release the other jets too to make it easy for everyone to get them if they want to get on ball. Where I guess in this case they're kind of just having that kind of thinking. They're just kind of having
Mm.
that, and I mean, the more that I look at the reveals of Sunstreaker now with the updated paint scheme from this shot, he looks great. Looks super articulated. He looks great. Again, it finally shows us the scale next to Sideswipe, so he is going to
Hmm.
be that proper Masterpiece car scale. He's not going to be like a little oversized like Hot Rod was, or something even
Or
bigger,
undersized.
or undersized. I think would have been too much personally. I think that would have been
Like, well,
skating.
how does the newer Hot Rod fit into all these other
He's
guys?
slightly taller, unfortunately.
Really? I
I,
thought I don't know why I get the impression that he's like fishing Hot Rod like he's tiny. I don't know
No,
why. I
you know
get
what?
that
It's a
impression.
shame because, like, and again, that was something I was really looking forward to. But it's still a great toy. I think the alt mode is awesome still, but a lot of missed opportunities. I really hope. I know this sounds crazy, but like for a 3.0 attempt at this character, even though it was already a 2.0 attempt in a lot of ways. So maybe we'll get, or again, Fans Toys has Hooligan coming. So as much as I don't like to always say, hey, go third party, we might have to in this point. But that's really it that I really wanted to talk about with Sunstreaker. Anything else you want to touch on before we move on?
Nothing else. I don't think. I think with the magazine images, I missed out on his gun on his backpack.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
if you look at where the article is, like you see his gun like just it holsters into his backpack, and I completely missed out on that. And I was like, I didn't notice it before. I'm only noticing it right now because they don't really show him prominently with his main gun. They only show like the smaller gun that kind of fits into his leg, like RoboCop like,
Hmm.
you know. But it looks really good. I can't wait for this guy to come out and see how he handles.
And it's funny too because while we were talking, I was just leafing through. I have this one book that has like all these screen caps of every episode of G1, kind of these synopsises, and I just was looking through it and I was like, oh shit, there was Roll for It. I think it was episode 4 of G1.
Hmm.
There was a scene where Chip Chase was actually sitting on Sunstreaker's shoulders, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, maybe that's the connection. You know, maybe that's the connection because I know in that very same episode, that was the famous episode where him and Sideswipe did Jet Judo against the Jets, and they were like really kicking their butt. And I mean, that's to me, that's going to be the really cool poses that we're going to see, like people putting like the jet mode of Starscream and having him like holding on to the rudders and kicking. I don't know. It's going to be cool. Like
Jet judo.
that looks like a really really fun masterpiece toy. MP-39 Sunstreaker.